Welcome to Risk 66 Accelerated Training video on using pure loss rates to assess performance. I'm Tim Coomer. Let's get started. In this video, we're going to look at what is a pure loss rate, how do I measure it, how can I track my company's performance using it, and what calculations can I use to assist in tracking. Before we find out how to use pure loss rates to assess performance, let's run through a brief overview of how they work. A pure loss rate is defined as the expected dollar loss cost per unit of exposure. In essence, it determines how much risk should be associated per unit of an organization's chosen exposure. Sigma has an entire video that dives more into this concept. If you're interested in learning more, be sure to check it out. In order to accurately assess your company's performance, your losses need to be compared to the correct exposure base. Ideally, you will choose an exposure that accurately represents the growth and decay of your organization. Similarly to the pure loss rate, Sigma has a video tutorial detailing exposures and how to accurately select a base that fits your needs. While actuaries are largely interested in the overall selected pure loss rate, the table itself can be very useful for tracking an organization's performance over time. As you'll see in the following example, pure loss rates depend greatly on exposures. When viewing each policy period's pure loss rate, think of the amount as per every unit of the exposure base. So here's a typical type of table you would see in an actuarial report. It shows the 6 policy periods being analyzed, the exposure, which is trended payroll for the 6 policy periods, the trended estimated ultimate losses, and the computed pure loss rate. Now, the pure loss rate here is computed by dividing the losses by the payroll and then taking that result and multiplying it by 100, since our pure loss rate is usually quoted in terms of losses per $100 of payroll. Tracking ultimate losses per policy period is the most common way that risk managers can tell how well or poorly their company is doing, but it doesn't always paint the entire picture. By using pure loss rates, you are incorporating your exposure to risk. Now, this accomplishes 2 things. First, it allows you to see if growth or decay in losses can be organically tied to growth or decay in your company's industry. Second, it gives you a chance to track the risk management side of your company by examining how much of your exposure to risk is being converted into actual losses. In this example, we can see there's a pretty dramatic increase in the trended estimated ultimate losses over the past 6 years. Now, if we were just focusing on those numbers, that could be alarming. However, if we view that along with the trended payroll and we compute a pure loss rate, we see that pretty much for the past 6 years, our pure loss rate has been very constant. So we don't have some type of issue with increasing pure loss rates or increasing losses when the exposure base is not also increasing. Now, in this example, we also see increasing trended estimated ultimate losses, which again, viewed by themselves, could be a big concern. But we also have increasing payroll, but the payroll is increasing at a faster rate than the losses. Therefore, the pure loss rate, which is computed for each policy period, is actually decreasing over time, which is a good thing and may be the result of some risk management initiatives. Next, let's discuss some computations that sometimes are very useful for the actuaries. Historical averages, computations that exclude anomalies, and weighted averages. In some cases, you may wish to view a period's performance in comparison to a prior section of time that encompasses multiple periods. This is where historical averages come in handy. Typically, these are most useful in instances where a long-standing issue has changed, such as claims adjustment philosophy, or there's been a new division of the company added or divested. In this example, we compute the 3-year average for the 3 policy periods just prior to the one that we're interested in. And we see that the 3-year average is $1.45. That's the pure loss rate on average for those 3 years. and therefore we can see the year of interest with the $2.29 loss rate is definitely out of line with the previous 3 years. You may also wish to view your company's performance over a section of time, but exclude a period determined to be uncharacteristically high or low. Periods such as these can occasionally be tied to an anomaly that one is reasonably sure will not happen again. In this case, that period can be eschewed to gain a more accurate estimate of performance. For example, if we wanted to look at the most recent pure loss rate that we have, which is $1.46 in this example, and compare it to the previous years, the average of the previous years, the previous 5 years, is $2.30. So the $1.46 looks very favorable compared to that. However, we do notice that in one of the years, there's a $3.99 pure loss rate, which looks like an anomaly. So we remove that, recompute the average without that number, we get $1.88. So the $1.46 for the current year still looks very favorable compared to the average of the previous years, even with the one value, the unusually high value thrown out in the average recomputed. Weighted averages allow you to track the performance of a section of time while taking into account the relative importance of each policy period. By doing this, you should be able to more accurately describe how well the risk management portion of your company performs in both high-risk and low-risk scenarios. In this example, the straight average of the pure loss rates for the 6 years that we're looking at is $1.97. Alternatively, we can sum up the payroll and the losses and then divide the losses by the payroll times 100 and get a pure loss rate that then includes some weighting based on the level of the payroll for each of the historical years, and this gives us $1.91. Another way to quickly assess your company's performance is by tracking average claim severity. While it does not display the big picture, average claim severity should allow you to see if your company is improving or getting worse at handling claims on an individual basis. Using this assessment in tandem with frequency, whose tracking we cover in another video, should provide a good estimate of how your company is performing overall. Finally, you can also track your company's performance by comparing them to industry averages. While comparing your company to these averages should not be empirical evidence of how well or poorly they are doing, it can be useful to see how they compare in general. Contact Sigma if you would like assistance in pursuing this method of performance assessment. In this example, the pure loss rate for the 6 years that we're looking at is $1.97. However, if we look at the industry averages for each of these 6 years, we get an average pure loss rate of $1.91. So it appears on average that this client is higher than the industry benchmark that we're using during the past 6 years. Hopefully, we've provided a good basis for how you can use pure loss rates to track your company's performance over time. This can be very crucial to tying your company's losses to their growth or decay as a whole. As always, if you are interested in accomplishing this and have further discussions, we here at Sigma would be happy to assist. For expanded information, see the resources listed along with this video or contact Sigma Actuarial Consulting Group at support@sigmaactuary.com. Thank you for taking time to watch this accelerated training video on using pure loss rates to assess performance from Risk 66.